You're listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Here are your hosts, Fran Chismar and Tom Knezik.
Welcome back to The Buzz, brought to you by the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. I am Fran Chismar.
And I'm Tom Knezik, and today we're buzzing into episode 71 of our podcast, Native Plants Healthy Planet. And I know we probably have a lot of new listeners. Just looking at our listens, I'm assuming there's many of you who are new to the show. So The Buzz, if you listen to our last episode, we had a Meet the Guest type episode where we have a guest on. The Buzz is a little bit different, is where we highlight our favorite plants of the week, share some native plant current events, answer listener questions, share our thoughts on what's going on in the world of native plants.
We get a little more chatty, you know, it's a little,
have a little more fun, get a little goofy sometimes.
Yeah, it's a little more loose. We do some spontaneous stuff at the end. We share secrets. Oh, I gotta share a secret. Today's my secret. I did not prepare.
I looked at the script and saw my name there. I'm like, Fran didn't change this.
Nope, I didn't prepare, but I got one. I know we talked about one, so I think I'm good to go.
And on today's episode, we get to be a little bit charitable.
Woohoo!
So that's pretty nice. That's what we were talking about for a while, and you guys delivered. A couple more people bought some shirts and pushed us over that threshold, so we get to give away a little money.
That is wonderful news. That is wonderful news. So I know we discussed it briefly beforehand, but we're going to split up what we're donating this time between two.
Yes,
two organizations.
Technically, it's four because we do have the donation
correct
or sponsored specific shirts.
Yes.
So there's certain shirts. The buzzing about native plants. That goes to support the Xerxes Society.
Okay.
And then Native Plants for the Birds shirt is to support the New Jersey Audubon.
Yes.
So that comes a little bit off the top for these other two organizations that we picked, and we picked two. Well, we had one in mind.
Yes.
Up until last week, and then we said, you know what? After hearing this, we really have to do two.
I agree.
But both are they are so hands-on on what they're doing, and
they're more of grassroots efforts. And to me, for both of these, not saying that the other organizations can't use the help, but
a dollar goes a lot further with these ones.
With these ones, and I think they're putting a lot of their own time and a lot of their own money towards it. And I know that it would be helpful for them for whatever we can provide.
Yeah. So first up is someone we actually just sat down with at the nursery within the last couple of weeks, and that's the Sourlands Conservancy.
Yes.
And you could hear them in one of our really early episodes. It was the episode right after my son was born, and now he's a little over a year old. So it was a while ago, but that was with Carolyn Klauber. And she came to the nursery a couple weeks ago to shoot some videos of some of the stuff that we do here. And the videographer who came with her is on the board for that organization.
So we've done a few videos with them now, and for their educational purposes, and we're grateful to be included in what they're doing. But I love the message that they're spreading.
And they're an organization who they do it. We, as the nursery at Pinelands Nursery, we get requests for donations for plants all the time, like from everyone. But there's so many people who really aren't doing it on their own. Yeah. They say, hey, can you donate something? And then I'll do it once I get the material for free.
Yeah.
The Sourlands Conservancy is the other way. They're doing this on their own, and we go out of our way to support them because we know they believe in what their mission is. They aren't doing this because they can get it for inexpensive or free. They're doing it regardless of the cost, and it means a lot to them when we are able to give them something.
They know the importance of it, and they know the importance of getting everyone involved, and they do a very good job of getting everyone involved, and they're the right message. If it's kind of like the whole message with breeding sweetgrass, where you don't own these, the plants aren't yours to profit off of, but if you have seeds and you can share with other people and grow this together, together we can make a bigger difference. And it's a great message. So we're always happy to help, and I'm really proud that we can support their organization in this way.
Yeah. And number two is the Native Habitat Project, who we just had on last week, and we were Fran and I were just both so impressed that he was he just started this native habitat project within the last 2 months. Kyle did, but we were just so impressed with how he was literally stopping on the roadside and seeing parcel land, contacting the landowner and say, hey, you have some rare plants here. Can I take care of this for you?
Yeah. Taking
his own time away from his family. And I know he's got at least one young kid, if not two.
But using his own money to create signs and it was just really impressive. Yeah. It was inspiring.
It was very inspiring. And it's another situation where we know a little bit of money that we can share with him. Actually, I shouldn't say we, you guys that bought t-shirts are sharing this with him.
Our listeners
goes a really, really long way. More so than a bigger organization where it would be a drop in the bucket. This is like a lot more impactful.
Yeah. After we finished the podcast with Kyle last week, I don't even think we left the office. Like we exited the Zoom and said, hey, when we have money from the shirts, they should be one of our first recipients. So, and it's, and like you just said, Tom, it's not us, it's our listener base. And you did a wonderful thing by buying t-shirts. That money will help people that really need help. Plus you're spreading a great message by wearing these t-shirts out. Just, I find myself originally, I got them to wear for work purposes, but I'm wearing them all the time. So I love the message that it sends. So everyone kudos.
And we've gotten reports back that people are noticing these shirts when they wear them and getting compliments on them. And it helps spread the message. So we're really happy to be able to do this and keep buying shirts and share them with friends. The more people that get this means that we can help more and more organizations. So we hope to be doing this for a long, long time and have larger sums that we can give away in the future.
This is just a start. So let's keep it strong. We're going to keep coming out with new shirt designs.
I've been slacking there. I've been saying, I'm going to put one up this week, and I haven't done it yet.
You know what? You can't say you're slacking because you have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. But I do have a couple more that I need to get up there. Hopefully I'll do it soon. No promises this.
But there's enough there. Time. I know eventually the plan is to have hats.
Oh yeah.
And there's mugs there. There's the holiday season coming up that you can give them along with maybe seed packets or a native plant as a gift. It's a great message gift that you can share with everyone.
Definitely. So, but let's get things started this week. So, and as always, we always start with our That's Hot segment, which is where we share the plants that we're vibing with this week. So let's kick into it.
Would you like to go first?
Yeah, I can go. And I actually just made a video that featured this plant, and it's a Symphotrichum leve, which is probably a great way to butcher a botanical name. But and that's smooth aster, smooth blue aster is another name for it. It's pretty pale, especially compared to like New England aster. It's a lot bluer and like, or a light purple, and really, really beautiful. Prefers drier soils than New York or New England aster do for sure. It tends to stay shorter, like 2 to 3 feet. And I found in my own garden, it can get a little leggy unless you trim it back, which I recommend with a lot of the asters is like end of May. That's a good time to go and cut. I cut everything in my garden back, but asters specifically, if you cut them back, it'll keep them a little bit shorter and compact, and then do it again sometime like end of June. Is probably another good time.
Yeah. I mean, because you want that late, if you don't trim them back, sometimes to me, they start blooming a little earlier than I expect them to be blooming.
Yeah, that is a big thing with the asters too. When you do trim them, it'll delay that bloom period like a week every time you do it.
Yeah. And especially with the more of the drier upland species, to me, the wetland species tend to stay a little shrubbier, and the upland species tend to be a little leggier by nature. So just that little trim will help out.
And I know with our seed fields, we basically just take a brush hog mower and mow them back to probably a foot. Like I said, probably early June, end of May, and they stay a little bit brushier and lower, and so there'll be like maybe 1.5 feet to 2 feet when they bloom. But right now is where in our seed field, it's a mat of that color and they look really, really impressive, attract a bunch of pollinators. One of the issues we found for us is that they attract deer. So if you are in a place that has a lot of deer, that might not be something you want. And our theory is because the name smooth aster, they have a smooth stem where some of the other asters have a hairy stem. and we, at least our hypothesis is the deer don't mind eating this one, where the other asters, they don't like that furry sensation on their tongues. But we've also had people who want to attract deer. They want to put it in like food plots or something like that, and it's a native plant they can incorporate. The big downside I have with this plant is the bloom time is just really short, in my opinion. It's from when they start to finish, even in our seed field, it is less than a month.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty quick blooming plant. So,
but it's a nice one to have in the mix.
Yeah,
especially because it is a little bit lighter. And definitely it's nice just to have that mix in there as far as bloom time. It's okay for me to have one end earlier if other ones are going longer. So nice little treat. Good choice. Good choice. Awesome.
And what do you have this week, Fran?
I have I'm going with Itea virginica, which is Virginia sweet spire. So to me, I've loved this plant for a very long time. And part of it is it has a tremendous burgundy fall color that really stands out. Nice glossy leaf in the spring and summer, green leaf. It's an obligate. It is an obligate, which is funny to think about that, but it can take drier conditions. That it can take it from dry to very wet. It spreads by suckers and underground runners, so it will get wider and wider as it goes on. It does get 3 to 6 foot tall. So when you're looking for a native shrub that stays short, that's it stays nice. It keeps its leaves long into late fall, early winter. It's only native though to the mid-Atlantic, south to Florida and west of Texas. So I think New Jersey's really, it's southern New Jersey. It's its northernmost range. But to me, it's versatile. And we even talked about the summer flowers. It's a very fragrant summer spike. So to me, that shrub has a lot of interest. It stays nice and compact and short and just.
Fran, I think you've actually used this plant before.
I think I have too.
Because I remember a story. One of the reasons that this plant always sticks out to me is it's used as the conclusion of a play called Native Gardens.
Oh, and we had that conversation.
I remember having this conversation. I think we even did it on the podcast before.
And I can't remember if we did it last fall or if we did it in the summer when it was blooming. I think we've done it.
Yeah.
I
but it's a good choice.
I think we've done it, but it
for the
deserves
fall,
merit.
For fall color, it is like it really, really stands out.
And it does hold, like, to me, like leaves, as far as how it holds its leaves, to me, it's like Magnolia virginiana. It's like a little bit larger, glossier leaf, and just it gets that fall color and holds on pretty long. Yeah.
So. Where I've seen it before, I think, is in those like plant this, not that.
Oh,
up as a substitution for burning bush.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if I don't know a lot about burning bush as a plant because I have always worked in native plant nursery, but so I don't know plant wise if they grow in the same spaces, but I know for fall color, that was why they say the plant this, not that.
Technically, because it's not native, I don't think it has a wetland indicator status. So I don't know the moisture that it provides, but there was a burning bushes, Euonymus elatus, and there was a compacta, so dwarf burning bush that people would use as hedging, for the same reasons. Like to me, you could use Virginia sweet spire as a beautiful hedging. Granted it is deciduous, but most of in the Northeast
and that's what they did in the play.
Yeah,
is that was their resolve? Is they took down the fence and then they put up a hedge of Virginia sweet spire.
Yeah. So, and
I've just ruined the end of this play. I hope no one's planning on going to see it.
Plays you no longer need to see. Well, I'm laughing that's one of the jokes in The Office is that when I see a show or a movie, I tell everyone the whole premise. Yeah. And they call it the segment shows that you no longer need to see, hosted by Fran Chismar. So I'm glad that it was you this time and not me. Although eventually had I seen it, I would have blurted out it. So
no, it was actually it was a good play in my opinion because it was about native plants. There's a lot of references to Bringing Nature Home and Dr. Doug Tallamy. You have one couple who loves native plants and wants a native garden, and their neighbor is a traditional English style gardener. There's some race that comes into play. Yeah. There's age demographics come into play. There's wealth demographics that come into play. So it shows how it basically is doing exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And saying it doesn't matter what your background is, where you're from, what your income is. This is something everyone should be doing to help benefit the world.
That actually kind of leads into my this or that.
So let's move right into it. and this is our this week's botany-based current events.
All right.
And it's a competition. So
This is the-
You can get with this, or you can get with that.
All right, so we do have a winner because it is a competition, and the winner this week is Tom is back on top. 12-5 resound like that was like you won.
I even asked for votes for you.
It got
through
me
our
one.
Facebook poll.
It got me. But here's the thing: I knew that the article I picked really only resonated locally.
Mhm.
But to me, it was something I wanted to talk about. So I was okay. I was okay not winning that one. But what I have done in my head, without telling anyone, is create my own new competition. And what I did was I started calculating when the That's Hot posts go up on Facebook, whose selection gets more likes. So
yeah.
I won the That's Hot by 17-15 this week. So I just made my own competition that
you're
I
having
won.
with your
Yes.
so,
So I was like,
whatever makes you feel better.
My choice got more votes. So
but no, we did have two really interesting articles.
Yeah.
Yours was a lot more local because
Yeah.
it was about that Jersey native plants program.
yeah.
Which I would hope to see through more states. I know a lot of these states have their own taglines for stuff. I'm trying to think what New York's is. Like in New Jersey, we have Jersey Fresh for produce.
Yeah.
Jersey Grown for a lot of the nursery stuff, and then this Jersey Native was going to be another kind of tagline that went along with it.
Because those are very successful programs.
Yeah.
So I can understand them wanting to tie into it because it makes sense. And New Jersey, I know a lot of people don't think about it. If you're not from New Jersey or the Northeast, I think a lot of people see New Jersey and they think of like Trenton, Camden, and Newark, like the murder trifecta of the country.
Yeah, and they think of all the
Jersey
smog
Shore.
and the smell of northern New Jersey. They think of the TV show. That's been like the worst part about being from New Jersey is most people know you because of Snooki.
Yeah.
And
who was from New York. They just happened to film the show in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So it's, a good portion of New Jersey is agriculture, and this reason why it's called the Garden State.
Yeah.
So it's it's a great program, and I can see why they're pushing. I just had a lot to say on it. I knew it wouldn't resonate with everyone, but that's okay.
But the article that did resonate with everyone was all about rethinking when you're going to garden more ecologically and doing more things in the fall, which was I don't remember the exact title, but it was written by Margaret Roach. And that was in the New York Times. And even though there was a paywall, I still came out on top.
Now I noticed that we had the talk before we went on air that she had another new article this week.
Yeah, I did not go back to the well this time.
Well, you do get to choose since you won. If you would like to go first,
if
you'd like me to
I
go
typically have you go first, but this time I'm going to go first.
All right, awesome.
And I forgot to write the author in here because I think I know the guy, but the title of the article is North American Grasslands Conservation Act gaining traction on Capitol Hill. And it's basically a new act that's being proposed. And I always try and get into the politics thing a little bit. And basically there was the Wetlands Act that happened, I can't remember exactly when it was, that was in supporting of wetlands. This would be in support of uplands. And the article was on Project Upland and was written by, where's his name? Andrew Spellman, which
I know that name.
I know that name. I just don't know why. I don't remember where I've come across, if I met him in person or just through other media sources. I've heard him.
I'm gonna have to look it up because now it's driving me crazy why I know the name and I can't think of how.
So I'll read a little bit from the article and then I'll give a little bit of my feedback. And starting out with the working title of the North American Grasslands Conservation Act, Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever is one of the organizations at the tip of the spear working with legislators to write the language of the bill. The act comes a few months after the organizations, that being Quail Forever and Pheasant Forever, release of their program called Call of the Uplands Campaign, which set a lofty but attainable goal of raising $500 million to conserve 9 million acres, most of that attention occurring in the middle of the country, the middle third of the country, basically the Midwest. And that's because that's where a lot of grasslands are located, not because they don't care about California and New Jersey. It's just most of the grasslands are there. So Bethany Erb, who is a spokesperson from Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever, said, we believe the grasslands deserve greater consideration as everything from a component of natural infrastructure to climate resiliency. That grasslands are vastly beneficial for all Americans, not just upland hunters. She said, to put together a policy that conserves and enhances grassland areas and the sagebrush ecosystems is going to create more huntable populations and will help sequester carbon. Our proposed legislative framework is entirely voluntary and additive to farming and ranching operations, which was a very important component for us. We feel it's the ecological solution to many conservation conundrums we're in right now. And there's 8 organizations that are currently signed on to endorse this legislation, which alongside of Pheasant Forever and Quail Forever. That's the National Wildlife Federation, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, which is an organization I've requested to have on. I've talked to their people a little bit because I'd heard some interviews with them that were really enlightening. And their president, Whit Fosberg, actually, when I heard him speak, was saying how the stuff they were trying to do was so beneficial that it didn't matter who he was talking to, he had something to offer them. It was, if you were talking to people in New Jersey, you're going to take a completely different approach, and you weren't being like untruthful. You were telling the truth about what your program benefited them, but the benefits may be completely different to someone from Montana or someone from Texas, but it benefited everyone is what they were backing. So that was an interesting organization. The National Deer Association, which we had on with Kip Adams a long time ago, the North American Grouse Partnership, Land Trust Alliance, Isaac Walton League of America, which I've never heard of, and then the WWF, not the wrestlers, the World Wildlife Fund. So, and basically this bill, like I said, was backed off of the North American Wetland Conservation Act. That bill was responsible for supporting $1.6 billion in federal grants, which converted into $6 billion after the matching of non-federal and private partnership funds. It has supported 2,900 projects, over 30 million acres of wetlands and grasslands in each state. And it created 7,500 jobs throughout its 30-year life. So I guess that was quite a while ago. And $20 million in earnings. So this North American grasslands bill is based off of that North American wetlands bill.
That's awesome.
So, and then additionally, an important piece of the framework mentioned above is that there's private landowner incentives, similar to what's been done with the Conservation Reserve Program in the past, where they would basically give landowners money to basically not farm their land. It was a way to, one, affect crop prices and commodity prices, because now you have less production. So it wasn't driving down that price, but you'd have the benefits just from leaving the field fallow. You have all sorts of stuff come up, all sorts of grasses, a lot of goldenrods come up. So you have pollinated benefit. It's really awesome habitat for wildlife just by not farming those fields.
And that's something that Kyle talked about.
On
the last episode.
The downside of it is when those corn or soybean or commodity prices go up, they say, well, I'm going to get more money if I farm it than not. And a lot of the farmers would go back, or landowners would go back to using that ground, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you typically want to keep it in a grassland type state, and that prevents it from going to a woody state. So, and not that that's a downside, like a bad thing would be woody, but a lot of times they want it to be grassland-esque. And
you're creating a lot of that early successional habitat, which is wonderful.
Yeah, but I don't know how many. Well, I would think a lot of the listeners that came on because they heard the episode with Kyle, they probably are aware of this. I was aware of this through my Instagram feed because I follow the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers accounts. I follow the National Deer Association accounts. I follow the Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Partnership accounts. So I was hearing all about this. But I saw very little from the pollinator accounts, and I'm sure some of them backed it as well, but I didn't see as much from the pollinator accounts or native plant accounts. But this just goes to show how a lot of these organizations, one, can work together, and they want the same things. It's going to be beneficial for quail and pheasants and all sorts of wildlife. It's going to be really beneficial to pollinators too.
It's going to be
that's where a lot of milkweed's going to pop up, which is going to help our monarchs. So there's so many benefits. It's something that I'm going to get behind. And I encourage a lot of our listeners, if when you look into it a little bit more and make your own decision, to get behind it as well, because I think it's nothing but good. It'll
benefit pollinators. It'll benefit humans. It's a wonderful, wonderful bill. That's a great article, Tom. That's great. I'm sorry. I apologize. I was smiling a little bit when you were when you're talking about the organizations, because when you said Pheasants Forever, Agatha just told me a story about in the mid 80s, had to go back to Poland, and her mom was driving. It was her mom and her aunt in the front, and Agatha and her brother in the back. And a pheasant jumped on their car while they were driving and was on the windshield. And her mom, like everyone freaked out, and her mom was swerving to try to get it off because she couldn't see it, and she drove into a ditch and they got stranded. Yeah. They had to walk and find the landowner to pull them out. So I apologize. That's what it made me think.
I didn't even notice. I was so in depth on reading it, but
so that's a great article. My article this week is called "Why Switzerland is Growing a Native Plant Oasis in the Heart of Washington." And it's by Molly McCluskey of Audubon Magazine. I was a little disappointed that after I selected it, I did start seeing it make its rounds on social media. And we try not to do that. We try to do something that maybe other people haven't seen.
But it's still a valuable thing to point out for people who hadn't seen it.
Yeah. So it's, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher these names. I'm going to read a little bit I'm going to read a little bit of the article and then give my feedback. When Jacques Pitalou arrived at his new home and office in the fall of 2019, he was dismayed to discover the state of the property. As Switzerland's new ambassador to the United States, he had a piece of prime real estate in Northwest Washington, D.C., a historic 6-acre stretch of land that was once a farm called Single Oak. Now it hosted the country's sleek, modern residence and an embassy under renovation, but the grounds looked and were treated like a golf course. I felt a tremendous amount of guilt and shame when I took over the residence, he says. Golf courses are nice to look at, but they're ecological disasters. Normal diplomatic life was soon upended by the pandemic, and since then, he's been on a mission to rewild the expansive grounds, aiming to create biodiversity reserve marketed by the native plants of the region. He forbid the use of pesticides and allowed the lawn to grow out in spotty patches. Using resources such as Audubon's native plant database and Guide to Birds, he worked closely with local landscape designer Alder Tree Garden that specializes in native plants. They uprooted the non-native bushes and trees, such as ornamental burning bush and non-productive grass, replaced them with meadows, bushes, and native trees, including white oak, scarlet oak, black oak, and others. Wildlife was also a part of his rewilding vision as he built a home for the eastern screech owl, which he hopes someday to take up residence on the grounds. The nest box did lure an owl briefly, but the bird only spent 2 nights. Within a short time, the results are amazing. We have so many more birds, butterflies. It's incredible how quickly they returned. We have so many fireflies at night. It's like fireworks. His efforts to rewild the embassy and residents are part of a growing movement of local embassies adding more natural elements to their building and grounds. The Finnish embassy prides itself on being the first U.S. Green Building Council LEED certified embassy in Washington. The Irish ambassador's residence has a low-impact xeriscape garden, and the Tunisian embassy and residence both have wild, untamed pollinator gardens. In addition to vegetable gardens, the Canadian residence on Pennsylvania Avenue has beehives and a community engaged program around beekeeping. So Pitalou beforehand was an avid birder and is a big advocate for environmental diplomacy. Mm-hmm. So I was really impressed that he wasn't just, you hear story about the original settlers and how they were bringing a piece home and trying to make Europe making America like Europe. Where here I want America to be America, mm-hmm. Regardless of where I'm from. If I'm here, I want it to be wild like it should be, and I want the wildlife. And he wanted the birds, and he wanted to bring it back. And he didn't have to do that, a lot of these embassies don't have to do it. But I appreciate the message that they're sending, because it starts with each and every one of us, and it doesn't have to be what you envision. It can be what it is or mm-hmm. what it should be. So I just thought that was a great message. And I as I was reading it, I realized that you and I kind of switched as Jennifer would say, we have our own story types.
How's that for predictable?
and we had them selected before she even made that comment. So we kind of switched sides this week. But I just felt that on a government level, mm-hmm. that was a great message for environmental policy. All of them had and I didn't read these parts, but all of them kind of had a aspect of beekeeping, which again, which I thought was interesting that they went native for all these things and then non-native for that. Mm-hmm. But I guess that's how they connect with nature. Yeah. So that's their connectivity. I think
it's still, again, backtracking a little bit, beekeeping isn't, when we talk to Sam Drogi, beekeeping isn't a negative activity. It just doesn't benefit native plants.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting how those things are so tied together just because of it was really pollinators declining. We need to have more pollinator areas, and that includes native plants, which they did a good job of steering people into native plants for that. But the beekeeping thing and honeybees really got kicked into there, and that's the face of a lot of this. But for pollinators, it's
starting at the right place to me. Like it's starting from the government, who's supposed to be setting an example. And I like the example that's being set there. So I'd like to see more than that. So
we just need the White House garden to go native. So I know they're talking about, well, there's people who are appealing to have that happen, but
I just think it's funny. I was going to say that it's where it should start. It's not. And I don't know if there are aspects of the White House garden that are native. I don't know enough about it, but I know whenever they redo the gardens, like we saw it was boxwoods and hybrid roses and things like that, that yes, it's a beautiful garden, but to me, it's not sending the right message, and it needs to start from the top. So, but I will take this. I think these are all great stories. Not that any of us will get to visit the Swiss embassy. Yeah. Although if they want to invite us, I'd be happy to go.
Yeah, maybe we can get an invite. I would bet you have a beautiful chocolate fountain.
I'd get some cheese hors d'oeuvre, Swiss cheese. So all right, so
going back to food again, like usual.
But we'll have this posted. So go to, if you're not a member of our Facebook group, go join the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group and vote on whose article you like the best, because.
And of course, the choice is yours.
Speaking of the group, before we go further, I just want to say, like, I look at all these other groups and I look at like the mass number of people that are involved. I'm actually kind of happy that we have a small number. Not that I want to keep it small. I just think it's the right people in the group. It's not just attracting everyone because it's a large number. Because I was looking again, just snarky comments in other groups that just didn't need to be. And
me too.
We don't really have any of that. I think I've only realistically we've had to remove only 2 or 3 people from the group, and we really haven't had very many issues, and I'm appreciative of that. And I like the way it's growing, not that it's just something that everyone jumps into, and we don't really have a lot of problems, which I'm happy about.
Really, I would say almost none at all. So it's very on topic, and it's people are sharing really good information, whether it's articles they find or personal endeavors they're taking on, or just webinars that they're involved with. There's a lot of really good stuff that's happening there. So it's very friendly.
And it comes and goes. Like we have people that are very active and then they go quiet for a little bit and then someone else will become active. Like there's never you have normal people that everyone will probably know their name because they always comment, but they may disappear for a month and then come back. Like everyone has a life. So I'm just appreciative that there's enough people with input that the group keeps going.
And now we're at the part of the show where we highlight some of those people.
We are.
So Fran, I'm going to let you go first on this after you play your music.
All right.
Listener, shout out.
So I realized on the last buzz, we said we were going to shake it up and do a different order.
Yeah,
and we didn't do that. We didn't do that. But, my listener shout out, I wanted to mention this, and I don't even know the person's name, and I didn't even have a conversation really with the person, but over the Labor Day weekend, Agatha and I were at Tyler State Park in Newtown, PA, and as we were walking, a park ranger went out of their way. Like he went out of his way. He was walking over to us. And my immediate reaction was, oh my God, what did we do wrong? Like I started thinking, did I drop something? But he came over and got close enough and pointed at me and just went, love your shirt, and just kept walking. So I had the Plant Native Plant shirt on. So I just appreciate that it resonated with the park ranger, and he went out of his way to acknowledge it, so whether he's a listener of the podcast or not, he appreciated the message. And I just liked having that interaction without having to have a conversation. It was actually kind of, I appreciate it.
You didn't plug the website or the t-shirt website at all?
No.
Did you tell him to subscribe at least?
No. I said, thank you, and smiled, and we kept walking. So, but if you're listening, thank you. make sure you leave a 5-star review. All right, speaking of 5-star reviews, who do you have?
Yeah, so I made a proposition last time and said anyone who leaves a 5-star review with like an actual write-up, because that's how I can tell, well, approximately who you are.
Yes.
I was going to give them a shout out. They were going to be my listener shout out, and we got 4.
That's amazing.
Which I was really happy with.
Me too.
And I also said I would give you like a heartfelt compliment.
Yeah.
So now's my time to do that. And the first one was Kathy Sussex. They all have like screen name type things.
Yes.
None of them have their actual names. But so Kathy Sussex, and who I just know is a nice person because I've never met a mean Kathy.
You know what? I agree with you,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming it's a member of our Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group, though. We have a few Kathys in there that are in New Jersey, so I'm assuming it's one of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
But
guessing.
I know they're a nice person because, like I said, I've never met a mean Kathy, which reminds me, I had met another guy named Tom one time, and he was like, have you ever met a mean Tom? Toms are always good guys. He's like, Tommies? No, they're terrible. But Toms, always just good people. He's like, it was kind of said the same thing. He's like, I just know you're a good person from shaking your hand.
Nice.
So,
nice. Awesome.
But the next one was Paradox 27.
This was my favorite.
Paradox 27, I actually did a little research on. I was able to reach out to someone they knew that was a mutual friend.
Okay.
And so Paradox 27, your friend Dan told me that you've never burnt a grilled cheese. It always comes out like perfectly golden brown.
Wow.
That's
amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing because I struggle to cook a grilled cheese well. Everyone wants to go too hot. You got to really turn it, like I cook it on a 1 and then it takes forever, but then you get it right.
I tend to go on the hotter side. I really do. But I'll get it really hot and like flash cook.
But yeah, so if anyone needs grilled cheese cooking tips, don't ask Fran and I.
No.
You got to ask Paradox 27 because they did a great job.
Now, what I do appreciate about Paradox 27 is that they did say that I have gotten a little less chatty over time. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah. I'll take that. I appreciate that.
One that we just popped up today, right before we were going to record, was from Arm the Lorax. And Arm the Lorax, I also heard from a little birdie that the pollinators and birds just love your yard. I know that you're doing a great job planting native plants, and that's their like number one stop on their way passing through is they have to stop in Arm the Lorax.
I heard it.
I wonder if these people even know their own.
I've heard like that's like a very highly rated property on the pollinator Yelp page.
Yes,
like it's got 5-star reviews, and they all go out of their way to make sure they visit that property. So.
Yeah, and the last one was from Sweet Melissa with how many E's? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 E's.
Sweet. Like I picture Melissa. Cartman doing it. Like, sweet.
Yeah. And just from that screen name, I can tell that person's an excellent kisser. So.
I sure hope that
you nearly spit out your water.
I did almost spit out my water. I hope that Melissa is the same Melissa that you're married to.
Yes, that is my wife.
Right. That was
but no, they all left really, really great reviews. It's encouraging reading those kind of things. So it lets us know, even though I had to beg and plead for them, it was still really nice to hear that kind of stuff.
You know, it's funny that sometimes how much more attention gets paid to the negative. And we don't get a lot of negative. We really don't. It's a very limited amount of negative, but we tend to focus on that because it's not hurtful. It's just
what's the loudest.
Yeah, it's what's yes. So these ones really were loud to us this week because we really appreciated that. A lot of really nice words, and we appreciate everyone going out of their way to leave a review. Yeah. So, and that helped us. We jumped way back up on the charts this week.
Yeah. So it just makes us get more exposure. So. Yes. I will keep doing this as long as people keep leaving reviews. I hope I get to a point where I have to like pick 2 or 3 because there's just so many.
Yeah,
that would be really amazing and like just make my heart feel good.
That could be the whole section, just the listener shout out episode. That would be awesome.
No, and I will give a secondary listener shout out type thing as well because I was at the Mount Cuba Trial Gardens open house the other night. And a lot of people were really complimentary of our podcast, of our social media stuff, which was great because my wife was there too, and she does all that. And but specifically is Arden from North Creek.
Yeah.
And oh crap, I'm blanking on
Angela.
Angela. Yeah. It's always tough when you're live and then you blank on someone's name. but the two of them were just really complimentary, and I love that someone that is technically a friendly competitor of ours listens to our podcast and appreciates what we're doing. And I know on their social media, they're promoting our stuff all the time when we put it out. So.
Yeah. And we appreciate that. We try to do the same, but it's nice. It's nice to get a kind word from a colleague.
Yeah.
And that's, and the fact that they're even listening.
Yep.
So, and I appreciate that. So,
and I got to see a lot of our old guests there too. I got to see Nate Champagne from Mount Cuba from the Natural Lands episode. I got to see Sam Hoadley. Finally got to catch up. It was like the very end of the night. And then we realized we were the last people there, and got to catch up with him on some of the plants that we were talking about after the episode. And Steve Castrani from North Creek was there.
Awesome.
I'm trying to remember who else we talked to that was there that I didn't get. You're only there for a short period of time. And there's so many people, and now after a pandemic not after, but hopefully towards the end of a pandemic where you're outside and you can see some people that you haven't seen in years, really.
Yeah, it was
good to be out.
I was really disappointed. Like when you were telling me some of the people that you spoke to, I was having that talk with Agatha because we were supposed to go and we ended up not making it. And she was like, "Oh, we should have went." And I'm like, "Well, there'll be other opportunities." But it sounded like a beautiful evening, like kind of evening only Mount Cuba could do, and a lot of great people there. So when you said who was there, I was like, man, they're drawing the right people to these kind of events. So it just shows they're doing the right thing and sending the right message.
Yeah. But moving on, Fran, do we have any questions this week?
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
It's a simple question.
No, I didn't hear you. What was your question?
Saul was very excited about your contest announcement.
Well, that's nice to hear. And I kind of forgot about the contest.
Yeah,
I meant to remind people.
We have no entries as of right now.
We have one half entry.
Yeah,
I would say.
We disallowed it.
We're going to disallow it, but
it was appreciated.
My suggestion. So this is, I'll refresh people. We were looking for drawings or artistic renderings of Saul, but what you think he looks like. I mentioned last time I've met him a handful of times, but every time I see him, he's wearing a ski mask, a red ski mask, not a black one like a robber would wear. It's even got some bedazzles on it and stuff.
It's a little interesting.
It's
a little interesting. It kind of reminds me of like, there's so much stuff stuck to it. It reminds me of a refrigerator, of like,
a little
like
gum
magnets from other states. It's it's an interesting look.
But we want to know what you guys think he looks like, since we have a slightly jaded impersonation, but you're only hearing his voice and it's a very unique voice. So we want to know what you guys think he looks like. So we're looking for artistic renderings of Saul. So to our one entry, my advice would be, since we're not going to take an actual picture that you found on the internet, is maybe trace it.
Oh yeah.
If you just like this is what you did when you were a kid, is you kind of got the one copy and you put a white sheet of paper over top so you can see through, and then trace it. Then it'll count. I would completely accept that. So what we're going to do is Tom and I are each going to pick one that we feel is our favorite, and then we're going to send the two to Saul, and Saul's going to pick the winner, and the winner is going to get a long sleeve shirt from our Native Plants Healthy Planet store. So they're great prizes, and maybe you'll even get a shout out from Saul. Yes. Yeah.
In one of his messages. So that would be awesome. So I guess we should probably play his message. We were saying that he seemed really laid back last message, and you got him excited. So he's back. Here we go.
Hello, fellas. Pam and Mr. English Muffin Thomas. It's your friend Saul. I'm delighted to be honored with you. Thank you. First, gentlemen, before we get into the topic, I would like to thank your friend on the face page there, Mccoy International, who sent me some very kind messages when I was injured, and he sent the face message saying, "I hope you get better, Saul." So Mccoy International there, thank you. And I appreciate the kind words of everyone from the face pages. Now, McCoy reminds me, Pam, there used to be a show on the television, Thomas. It was called the McCoy's Navy. And I don't know if you boys remember that. It starred the Borgnine, and it was the Borgnine, and then these young men would wear khaki trousers and then just T-shirts, and they had a speedboat, and they would go water skiing around some Fiji island in the Pacific, and then they would sit around and drink beer all day. And I think the theme music, if I'm not mistaken, Pam, was In the Navy, which later was, of course, done by the Village People. Not many people know that. Now, on to the topic, fellas, and I'm gratified and delighted for the sketching and the painting of me. And Pam, I think you might remember back in the early 70s, the late 60s, I was very good friends with the dear departed Lou Reed. And Lou had a little motor scooter, and we would go down and see his friend, the Warhol, Andy Warhol, and he was the painter of the Campbell's Company. He worked for Campbell Soup and helped them design soup. And then Andy did many portraits of me, your friend Saul, and also Polaroids. And there's a famous one of me and Bianca Jagger, and I believe it is in the MoMA, which is a museum. And I have several original Warhols at the estate, including one he did of me, which is quite flattering, I thought. And perhaps I will share that with you boys someday at another juncture. But I encourage all the people in the Native community to please do send in your favorite portrait of your friend Saul. I am flattered by this immensely, with just one caveat emptor, and that is this is a family-friendly program. So please, no nudity. If we could please all agree on that point. And then I, of course, will send in a sketch that I have done of myself in the style of my friend, the late departed Andy Warhol. And Andy.
So that's the machine only allows up to a 3-minute message. So I don't know what else Saul is going to say.
What else could have been that? Who knows?
I don't know, but I keep laughing about the Borgnine. So it's actually, I appreciate that he gave Richard Mccoy a shout out. Mccoy Horticultural,
that's what we're
not
assuming.
International.
Yeah,
but the show is McHale's Navy, and Ernest Borgnine was the star. So, but he kept saying the Borgnine, which makes me laugh because now I'm thinking of Ernest Borgnine as the Borg from Star Trek Next Generation. I don't know if you even get any of those.
Not at all.
the Borgnine. But so I don't know if you know who Ernest Borgnine is. My generation, an older generation, would know him from McHale's Navy. Your generation would know him as Mermaid Man, the voice of Mermaid Man from SpongeBob. So that's my parents actually met Ernest Borgnine at my dad was a Korean War vet, and my parents were in Washington, D.C. for some event for that. And they met him, and he sat down with them at a park bench and just had like a really great conversation. So I know he was a great person, but In the Navy was not the theme song of that by the Village People. It was Nelson Riddle's McHale's Navy March. But and Andy Warhol did not work for Campbell's, the Campbell Company. He was a pop culture artist known for his paintings of Campbell Soup or Marilyn Monroe, things like that. Although I would love to see a Saul and an Andy Warhol of Saul.
Yeah, I did a quick Google because I'm like, oh, maybe I will get to see what this guy looks like, and no avail. Couldn't find it.
They're in the estate, so they must have been like a private thing where no one ever knew, like a gift. And Lou Reed, if you don't know, was the lead singer of the Velvet Underground. So
and if I'm not mistaken, you didn't ask anything about plants.
No, he was just really excited that we had a contest in honor of him. So are you and I going to do an entry?
Yeah, I might have. I am a terrible artist.
I am horrible.
I might have to try.
I'm horrible. I cannot. That's one thing that I cannot do well.
Yeah. Heck, we'd even allow a something from Microsoft Paint if that's your media of choice.
Yeah, I have a whole psychological breakdown of Saul. I actually have a whole full breakdown of what I consider Saul to look like based on information he has given us through, like, it's almost as if I work for the FBI and I'm giving like a whole criminal profile on Saul. But no, that was a great call. And remember, make sure that the contest, we don't have a deadline, but we'd like to get some entries.
Yeah, hopefully within the month we'll do it, but it all depends on how many people send us an entry.
Yeah,
I thought it was a good idea. Maybe it was a flop, but I guess we'll see.
We'll see. But we did have another call that does have actual questions, so we'll play that next.
Hi, Pam and Tom. I just wanted to call and say aloe, as in aloe vera, because dad jokes. This is Dr. Evil. I know I've been not calling in as I've intended, and I do want to apologize to my nemesis Doom for not using a voice changer at this time. I am a little slow on adopting new technologies, and there's no millennial around to help me learn these things, so I haven't gotten to that yet. I have saved up a lot of questions and comments and some observations. The first is, I've been a little down because I did find some jumping worms in one of my beds, and I think they came in with a load of mulch that I was using for a pathway. I've been a little down on that. I just listened to the Trial Gardens episode with Mount Cuba. I was really excited about finding some of these, I'll coin the term selectivars, like Jacob Klein and Jenna for Fox paniculata. I thought that was really good. I'm not going to attempt to say Didyma. Tom can enjoy that one. So I'm really excited about those. I'm currently worried about some of my monarch cats because I didn't water some of my milkweed enough in August, and it's looking pretty ratty, and there's a lot of caterpillars out there eating it down. Let's see, what else? I'm really interested in whether there are more selectivars like that might be more beneficial than some of the local ecotype natives. That's something that's really of interest to me. I do want to know if you have any thoughts about what to do about jumping worms. I've just been taking care of them individually as I find them, but that's not going to ever work. We should talk a little more about invasive insects. I know you do some, but it's something that you can talk about more. And probably other questions, but I think that's it for now. And look forward to hearing you guys.
Dr. Evil, it's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for finally calling in. We appreciate that. I know he's very active in the Facebook group. So, you were more familiar with the jumping worm issue than I was. I had to do a little research, but I wasn't as familiar with it.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say I'm a jumping worm expert by any means, but it's something that's been on my radar for the last couple years, I guess. I saw it started to show up in New York State, especially like Western New York. And I'm like, oh, if I go up that way, I got to be really careful that I don't somehow bring any back. But and I've been wondering if they're going to make their way to where our nursery is in the Adirondack Park. So I've been like nervous there.
Yeah.
But no, I still haven't seen one yet. Just have seen videos. And as far as I know, they aren't in New Jersey yet.
I don't know, but it from what I understand, one of the biggest guilty parties for spreading them is through mulch or soil deliveries, and that's because they have them, and next thing you know, you have them. So it's an issue, and it doesn't seem like there's a real good way to get rid of them. And where they're a problem, it's a big problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like how the name describes is they kind of like wriggle and writhe, and they'll actually can launch themselves off the ground. Yeah. But I know that they're going to be an issue here at some point. But
so, and from what I understand, and I'm just paraphrasing, the part of the problem is they eat the good soil, and what they leave behind is really unusable. So if you have enough of them in your soil, they're kind of depleting what's good about your soil and leaving behind something that's barren, that's really not very usable. So enough of them could wreak havoc in your local gardens.
But it's important to note that most, if it might even be all of our earthworms are non-natives. And one of the main ways that they're spread is through bait, like through fishing bait. And a lot of people, they'll go and dig a bunch of worms and go fishing, and then, or they'll buy a pack of worms, is probably even more likely. They'll buy a pack of worms from the store and go fishing, and then I'm done, I'm not going to use these, and they just dump them in the pond, dump them on the shoreline. Well, that might have been a place that didn't have that type of worm, and now it does. And it's something that, and it goes, I can't remember if we talked about this with Joe Cimelli or not when he was on with Joe Cimelli from Media. He's a fishing editor. But I know it might be just from his writings or podcasts that he was talking about how detrimental that can be, even with other minnows or anything you're using for bait is, and then beyond that, you're going into your plastic lures. That's a form of pollution. And if you're leaving your plastics in the water. but they really advocate for not just throwing your bait overboard when you're done and taking it and disposing of it properly, even if you're not going to use it, just because you don't know what you're introducing somewhere else.
But I know, and some of the solutions aren't necessarily great solutions if you have a large amount. I know one of the things that I saw was to put plastic over the soil and have the heat and the sun kind of draw them out of the soil, and then you can pick them out of the soil.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any like organic or chemical treatment that you can use. It's basically all manual hand removal.
It's that there was, I think, something natural you could spray that again draws them to the surface, and then you're still hand picking. So it depends on, if it's a large area, it may not really be feasible. And from what we read, most of it is if you have them, unfortunately, you're going to have them. So it's that's a shame.
But going to another one of his questions about the other selectivars, as he called them, that more beneficial than the straight species, is I guess I don't know a lot of them. I knew the Jacob Klein and I know the Gina, the Phlox Gina, but and then at the same time, it's important to I guess you got to defer to Mount Cuba's research, and really, if you look at their charts, but you got to keep in mind that that's just what's working for them. And it might not be as good everywhere, but one of the points I kept going back to, and I don't think I emphasized it enough when we were having that episode, was why I'm okay with some cultivars, especially the ones that are derived from it's a selection of a straight species plant, is if you were to just take one purple coneflower, just one seedling that even if it's from, if it's from a local ecotype source, that's one thing. But if you don't, you just go to the store and get one. Technically, that's a selection. There's one of them there. So it's no genetic diversity. So if it's straight species, which I've been told now, you just call it species, don't call it straight species. But say it's just the species Echinacea purpurea and you plant it, you only have that set of genetics and you don't know exactly what you're going to get. That's true. Predictability of what you're going to get kind of goes away. So it almost is just a selection. It's the same as except now you know what that Echinacea purpurea magnus is going to be versus just getting a straight species.
Perfect example is I was taking a walk through the nursery, and right behind the seed shed there was a Rudbeckia hirta popped up, just one, but completely different markings on the flowers than what you would consider the species. So if that was the one plant you got, that would definitely be a selection, because it didn't look like what it resembled it was it, but it was definitely genetically altered with the markings on the petals.
And just through natural means, it was genetically altered.
And we kind of danced around this during that episode as well. But the thing to remember too is with what Mount Cuba is doing is to their region. That's the results they got in northern Delaware in the mid-Atlantic. But if you were to do the same testing somewhere in a different part of the country, there's different insects,
and
there's
that's
different
why
pollinators.
I was encouraged to hear that they're doing it like the Chicago Botanical Garden, and he mentioned a few other places
somewhere
they
in
were
Denver,
doing some
I
of
think.
Stuff. So then you can actually have regional results that you can base it off of. And that was, I guess, one of the troubling things I was seeing is there were people from out west or Colorado, California, wherever, that were looking at this trial and saying, oh, look, this is better. Well, it might not be the case where you are. This is only relevant really there. And
that's why we were saying it's important for more people to do this type of research. But it's a great start and it's fantastic research, and they're getting some great results. And I'd love to see more. I'd love to see more.
Exactly.
So one other thing that Dr. Evil did bring up with his milkweed, and it's, I think it's only really an issue with the caterpillars eating a lot if the plants aren't really fully established. A lot of the milkweed is upland milkweed and should be okay. They're deeper rooted for those purposes and should be able to handle like drier August, because that's what they do. If it's a new plant that you're just watering to get established and it's weakened that way and the caterpillars eat it, I think that's a different story. But if it's just, if you had them for a few years, they're upland species, you didn't give extra watering, it should be okay. Even we've seen monarch caterpillars completely decimate the leaves of milkweed here and have the plants come back the next year. So
Yep.
hopefully you should be okay.
Yeah.
I'm not guaranteeing it, but I think you should be okay. But
Yeah.
that was a fantastic phone call. Thank you so much. So you do have a topic for us.
I do. Yeah. And this is one that we can keep short, but,
Okay.
and I think I mentioned it last buzz, but Fran and I have a presentation we started to give where we talk about how you can help spread the message and grow the circle, I guess is the better way to put
Yeah.
it, how we can make this circle bigger. My mom used to say something all the time, like it was a business phrase, I guess, that is when you wanted to get more, or if you wanted to grow your sales, it's either you needed to make your slice of pie bigger or make the pie bigger.
Yeah.
Just grow the pie.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to do is grow the pie. So we had a couple things that we talked about in that presentation that on how to help grow the mess or spread the message. And I figured we'd want to share some of them now.
Yeah. So I see. I'm not as prepared.
I only put one of them.
And that was something I had seen. And I know I showed you.
Told me about it. I thought Melissa told me.
No. And I saw it on Facebook. One of my friends had shared it on Facebook, and I can't remember the organization, but it had monarchs in it. It wasn't monarchs in the rough
Let's save that one to the end, because I
Okay.
remember a couple. One of them was doing what a lot of you are doing already, and that is just highlighting your what you're doing on social media.
Yeah.
Not in a negative light. You're not saying, "Oh, all my dumb neighbors are planting burning bush and Japanese barberry. Look at me, I'm holier than thou." It's just saying, "Hey, this is a really cool plant, and look at all these amazing insects that I'm helping. Look at all the pollinators I'm helping."
Yeah. No one, it doesn't help anyone. No one's better because you're doing the right thing.
Mhm.
It's beneficial that we all do the right thing.
It's passive teaching.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing there. One was just having a nice looking garden goes a long way.
Yeah.
It goes from having people being resentful and driving past your yard and saying, "Oh wow, this is out of hand and I'm calling the authorities," to saying, "Oh, that's pretty neat. I want some of what they have."
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what to say now. What I was going to say, I shouldn't say. So I'm going to stop there.
A great way. We always talk about education. Whenever we have a guest on, we always specifically and purposefully ask them how important education is, because we know it's important. Signage is a big part of that. So if you're really, you want people to ask questions or know more about what you're doing, have signs in your garden, like about pollinator habitat or butterfly habitat or bird habitat. And just, it goes a long way. Or even just what,
it goes a long way, because people who take the time to read it will now learn about a little bit about how important that is. But two, people are willing to overlook a little bit of that once they know how beneficial those plants are. So look at your garden and say, "Oh, it's really messy." You put a sign up front that says, "Oh, this is a pollinator space," and says, "Oh, this is helping." And just that small action, and you can get these signs online or you can make your own. Just that small action goes a long way in changing someone's opinion on what you're doing going on. And they might take a little bit of that way and go home.
You know, here's my free $1 million idea this episode, although it's not $1 million, it's just a good idea. If you're that proud of what you're doing on your own property and you want to be inviting and use it as an example garden for other people, kind of like, you know, when you see a house for sale and it has like the little circular handout where you can get the info about the house, have one of your garden, just like a map of the garden, and have every plant numbered. And then under the number, have the plant, what pollinators it benefits, when it flowers, and let people walk around your property and look at each plant and see actually what it does.
Yeah.
If you don't mind having people on your property, if you're that proud of what you're doing.
Or you offer it up. I know there's a lot of groups, a lot of the master gardener groups who do like garden tours. Offer it up for that.
So, and let people experience it at their pace. Like some people don't want to have that conversation. I know I'm an introvert and would probably shy away from that. But if I could pick up a piece of paper and walk around someone's property real fast and look at something, like they may walk by your property and see something flowering and go, "What is that?" They can grab the sheet and
and that was so with the whole COVID thing, and then kind of the boom of these Facebook marketplace things where people were going through doing their spring cleaning and then going through and saying, "Oh, I'm going to put this online and try and sell it for a couple bucks." My wife really got into that and was selling a bunch of stuff that we had in the basement that we no longer use, but someone else might want. And when over the summer, when our flowers were really in full bloom, people were walking by and saying, what is that? I want some of those.
Yeah.
And then they see the nursery behind their house and want to go and buy them there, and we're like, oh, you can't do that. But so those are some of the passive things you can do, is just making sure what you have is inviting and isn't going to turn people off is the wrong figure of speech, but you don't want people to look at you and say, oh, this freaking crazy person next door, the same way that you are maybe doing with their burning bush Japanese barberry. You don't want them feeling the same way. You want it to be inviting. You want it to be something where they're looking at you as a model of maybe how to improve themselves, and passively taking that away.
And one of the things I loved in the Facebook group, someone asked, based on our last episode with Kyle from Native Habitat Project, what the hashtag was that we created, which was hashtag Kyle's project. And what we had talked about was, instead of filming your neighbor using a leaf blower saying how detrimental they are and how silly or stupid they are for doing it, we challenged everyone to take a video of their yard in the late fall saying, I just built this fantastic habitat for pollinators in my backyard. We just did all this work. And then you show them just all the leaves on your ground and all the stuff not cut back. Talk about all the benefits and habitat you created for overwintering for some of your favorite pollinators, or where they may nestle in hollow stems of certain plants, and highlight that. We said use the hashtag Kyle's project to kind of spread that message in a positive way, like a positive challenge, like an ice bucket challenge or something like that, where you're just if everyone does the videos, and there's a lot of them, it will kind of break that habit of I need to rake my leaves, I need to cut everything back.
And that takes us into those active steps you can take, and that's using social media like that is a way to do it. And it's putting yourself out there and saying, hey, look what the good things I'm doing, not in a braggadocious way, but in a way that says you can do this too. Just by making these small changes. Another thing you can do is just approach, like when your neighbor, especially if you have a nice looking garden that is inviting, and you kind of get that reputation of having something that people want to look at and maybe go to you for advice. We have a neighbor who's maybe they have some native plants in there. We'll compliment them on them. Just going, hey, I really like that you have that Itea virginica in your backyard. That is really nice plant. I'm so glad to see that you're planting it, because it supports all these insects and these many birds and all this. Or if they have something, even make suggestions, say, hey, you've just planted that red bud. It would look really good if you put some Carex pennsylvanica around the base. And then you wouldn't have to mow near it. Oh, that would look really, really cool. Those little suggestions, especially if you can build up that reputation of knowing what you're talking about, can go a long way. A lot more than saying, oh, I can't believe you planted a Japanese barberry and use 2,4-D in your yard, because that might turn people off and have them not do that stuff.
And one of the things, at the time that you're listening to this, our episode that we did with Shannon from Backyard Ecology should be live. And we talked about sharing the message in a positive way, and that it really needs to start with the younger generation, because that's good habits to pick up at a young age. And that kind of brings us back to the seed packets. And what we had saw was an organization that was selling seed packets to give out at Halloween along with candy, not in place of candy. No kids, unless you want your house TP'd. That's not a good decision. So I'm quickly trying to look back real quick. Oh, here it is. So it is Save Our Monarchs Foundation is doing this, and it's a Halloween themed seed packet of plants that are great for monarch butterflies. I'm assuming it's milkweed and so forth. And it has some great information about it. So along with candy, giving out seed pack. What kid doesn't like? One of my earliest memories of preschool is growing a bean plant from a bean, and growing it in a styrofoam cup of all things, and taking it home. But what kid doesn't like to watch a plant grow? So if you're telling that story, or you have kids releasing butterflies, and you're saying, hey, this plant, you can grow it and put it out there, and it will actually attract caterpillars that turn into butterflies.
And if you work for that Save a Monarch Foundation, cover your ears real quick, because I'm going to tell them how to do it cheaper. If you have a native garden, you can do this yourself. Just get a bunch of like little manila envelopes from Staples, or is Office Depot even in business?
I'm not even really sure.
You can get them at Walmart, Target, really wherever. Just get little manila envelopes and go and collect seeds from your own garden. throw them in there, and then write the name on them, and then give them out at Halloween.
Yeah.
And it might not have as much information on there because that would be a lot of handwriting to do that. But giving stuff out at Halloween is an awesome idea. And we even said, as for more, what was the word? We were calling it aggressive, and someone gave us a better word. I don't remember what it was, but more aggressive techniques is taking advanced steps like that.
Was it assertive?
Assertive.
Techniques.
Going to your neighbor's barbecue and giving them a plant and saying, hey, as a hostess gift. Or going to like another party and bringing seed packets. Or someone, Alyssa Lewis, was putting online how she was giving away seed packets on her Facebook Buy Nothing group.
Yeah.
That's a great way to just get that stuff out there. And you get people learning about it by taking it for free is one way.
Yeah. And it's a great message. And there's so many great tips, regardless of how you feel socially.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of different ways you can handle it.
The last thing we always brought up in those presentations is that there's so much marketing being done on the other side. There's so much marketing being done that you need to spray your lawn to keep it green, or you need to spray your yard for mosquitoes, or you need to buy this Japanese barberry or whatever. There's so much marketing going into how those things are so beneficial. There's no marketing going back the other way, or very, very little. So that was saying, if you're in a garden club, you're in a native plant group, you're in something like that, that might be, you're going to get a flyer in the mail saying, hey, it's time for you to schedule your lawn maintenance appointment with True Green, or it's time for you to schedule your mosquito spraying, and you're going to see the signs across the street. Nothing's coming in your mail saying, hey, you need to do native plants, except from the Sourlands Conservancy. I know they're putting stuff in the mail.
But there's very good, inexpensive ways. And I know every time I'm at a diner and they have the placemat that has local advertisements, I always read them. You know, you could have a little blip on that, or your local church in their pamphlet that they hand out, like the weekly going ons in your church circular. You know, there's inexpensive ways locally that you can make a difference. And those are just some of the ways. And we need all of these, not just one or two, but whatever works for you is a fantastic step. So, and make sure we really go into this in depth with Shannon on Backyard Ecology. So make sure you check out her podcast and check out our episode that we did with her if you want to hear us ramble for 2 hours.
All right, cool. Fran, you have a complaint today?
No complaints. I got nothing.
I do have a little book report from my Grow Read a Book. I'm going to buzz through it. Okay. I know we're going a little bit long. We're
about an hour, close to an hour and 15.
Okay. So yeah, this won't take me too long, but I recently listened to a book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. He's kind of like a business writer. And you may be wondering why I'm listening to this Native Plants podcast. Why are we talking about a business-esque book? And it's because the whole book is about how things become pandemic, whether that's diseases, products, ideas, anything like that, how they take over and become viral. And so he had a couple examples, and basically the whole premise was, once an idea reaches the tipping point, it spreads like fire. And there's three kinds of people who are responsible for getting these ideas to tip and get past that. Okay, we're growing slowly, and then all of a sudden it just takes off. But if that idea isn't a sticky idea, which native plants is definitely a sticky idea, so it'll work. But if the idea is not a sticky idea, it'll never tip. But those three people is, you have connectors. And they're the people who have the massive social networks. And his example is, think of your friends, like pick your 40 closest friends that aren't family, and then go back to where you met them. And when you do that, you're going to find that most of your friends that you met through one friend. And it was, so you go through and you're going to realize, this isn't my friend circle. I'm just a part of Joe's friend circle. And Joe is friends with these 10 other people that I'm friends with because I met them because I went bowling with Joe, and I went to the movies with Joe, and I went here with Joe. And that's how I met these people. So there's certain people who just know way more people. They're so connected to everyone. You have salesmen, the people who boast about ideas they love. They boast about the ideas they love, and they're incredibly positive. Their energy is just contagious. And then you have mavens, and they're the people who hoard information, and they have such great tips, and they want to share it with their networks. And the people that know them are greatly influenced by their advice. This was what he referenced in the book is, people grocery stores know that when they put stuff on sale, no matter if the sale is actually a sale or not, people are going to buy it. What keeps them honest is there are people who look up their stuff all the time. How many people actually go to the grocery store and they say, oh yeah, this ice cream is on sale, and say, well, I know if I go to, I'm at ShopRite, or I'm at Target, if I go to Walmart, it's going to be 5 cents less, even though it's on sale here.
Yeah.
No one's really looking that up. They just trust that the grocery store is saying that. So the grocery store found out, well, we can say whatever we want and people are going to buy it because it's on sale.
I'm one of those people that know, and I'm not going to say the grocery store, but there's a grocery store locally to here. And I don't know if that's all over the United States or if it's just in this area, but when they list, and I only know because I was in there 2 weeks in a row and I bought something and they listed buy one, get one free, and they doubled the price.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're really buying two, but they're telling you it's buy one, get one free. And all these people are buying it, but they really didn't lower the price. So then I started, I'm one of those people.
So the mavens are the people who know, like, check up on that stuff. They just have the historical knowledge of it, and then write to the stores when they're wrong, whether they're going to buy it or not. They're like, oh yeah, I didn't want this ice cream, but I saw you were offering it for on sale for 25% off, but it's really, you marked it up 50%, so you're charging people more.
Yeah.
And they hold them accountable. 99% of the population, probably 99.9% of the population, doesn't hold these stores accountable, but these people do. So think about your own circle and who are the connectors, the salesmen and the mavens in your space, and then who are those people in the native plant world, and how do you get those people connected so that we can spread this message even further? That's what we really need to find, because if you can find, it's when Kylie Jenner plants a native plant in her yard, there's going to be a ton of people planting native plants in the yard. That's what's going to take it to that next step where we're really going to make a difference in the planet.
Yeah.
So
if someone here knows Kylie Jenner,
get
that on her Instagram.
You're invited to our next house party. Make sure you bring a native plant as your hostess gift, and then
we still haven't had our celebrity guest on Meet the Guest, although someone was working to try to get us someone that we would be excited about getting on. And it's not someone that I think that our average listener would think of, but we were excited. Hopefully it still happens. Yep. But if you know someone famous that's an environmental advocate that you would love to hear us get to interview, push them our way. We're still waiting for that big break. So you want to do by the way, great book, great tie-in too.
And that was why I wanted to make sure I talked about. I was going to talk about it last time, but I figured it ties in better with this episode. It's it's amazing how all these things really tie together, and how the things that get popular, they get popular because they hit those things, they hit those people. And it was the things that remain popular are because they remain popular with those people.
I mean, we're all trying to spread the right message, but if we just keep sharing it with each other and we don't take it outside that circle, it's great, things get done, but we need a much larger audience.
We're making our difference, but to make a difference on the planet, if the climate projections and water level projections and all those are true, which many of you probably think they are, I think they are, we need to make a difference now. And we're not going to do it as our small group.
No,
we need the general public to embrace this as well.
Exactly. So please help us do that. Every time you leave us a 5-star review, we get closer to doing that. So that's a great thing. You want to do a pod deck?
Yeah, let's do one.
All right, let me see if I got
I don't want to fill too much time having to wait for you to shuffle through.
No, I got the make it see, this is like future stuff or stuff that we can't do. Debunk myths in your industry.
Oh, isn't that what we do every week?
Yeah, that's pretty much an AMA, which
there's no one here to ask us anything.
No. Share your morning or nightly routine.
Well, mine's kind of boring.
So is mine. It has nothing to do with this. My top 3 goals and what I'm doing to get there.
Okay. We can do that one.
Do you want to do one? What's our top goal?
Yeah, we can do that. Well, we'll probably go into more, but
okay.
Oh, now this is getting really hard.
I'll
Yeah.
go first. I'll go
Okay,
first.
go ahead.
One thing, and I actually did it today. One thing, I feel extremely guilty because we talk about all these great things that you can do, and I feel like I don't always walk the walk. And I wanted to get more active in donating money, not so much to these causes, but just in causes I believe in general. I actually made a donation today to St. Jude's because it's something I feel strong about, and I haven't been walking the walk as much as I would like. And they actually have a great program where you can send a card to a child going through cancer, and just with a positive message, and it doesn't cost anything. You pick the card, you write the message inside, or you can even let them pick the message, and it goes to a child in need. And I just thought that was great. So it's a few, that's just one example, but it's like things across the board like that I'm just trying to be, I love that with our t-shirts that money is being used to help that message. And I'm just like, I need to do more than just talk about it. Like, I know we're doing a great service by building the circle and doing it, but I felt like I needed to do more. So that's one of my goals. Like today I was finally like, I keep thinking about it, I keep talking about it, but I'm not doing anything about it. What are you going to do about it? So
yeah, that's a good one. Mine is actually kind of similar, and it's also making sure I'm walking the walk, but especially in regards to native plants. And that's one of the reasons I'm so strict with myself when it comes to my own home garden, and how I make sure I really feel guilty if I was I'm going to go back to my beautyberry conundrums, and I would love a beautyberry in there, and I know that's going to make a difference, but couldn't I plant something that's going to make even more of a difference there? Definitely more than if I was to plant a non-native that's not going to attract anything or very, very little. I would feel incredibly guilty doing that. So I do that at home. And then now it's taken another step, is saying I need to be more vocal, like what we just listed, saying I'm not a big social media person in general. I'll use it to consume. I'm not social on it per se. So that's one of my goals, is to not just become more social, but really frame it around native plants, because that's so important. And we've developed a platform now through the podcast that people for some reason are interested in what we have to say. So that's one way to really spread that message, and not just talk about it in this media, but go across medias and get more active. So it's going to be tough for me because it's just not my personality.
No, it used to be mine, and I've really, like, social media was a big part of my life like 8 to 10 years ago, and it's not the same part of my life now, which is a good thing. But you figure you have the ability to spread the message, and that's part of the reason. Like, if you're a member of the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group, I shared my visit and me and Agatha when we went to Tyler State Park, because it was a beautiful day and it was the right message. And I want to get people involved to see, hey, this is what we're actually doing on our time off. We're visiting these natural spaces and enjoying them, and you can too. And not just, hey, we're doing this. What did you do? Like, share your story with us. How did you be a part of it? And I think about what you were saying with native plants. Is there a better plant? Like, I'm actually going to plant some Amsonia, which is not, it's a native plant, but it's not native to here. But we're also taking out something invasive to plant the Amsonia there. So it's doing better than what was there. It may not be the best plant for that thing, but I love that plant. I want to have that connection with that plant, and I'm taking out something that's not doing any good. It's actually doing harm, and planting something good there. So it's, man, this podcast is making me a better person.
Me too. It's I think what it is put more, like I just said, we've developed, and people who actually want to listen to us and agree with, I agree with a lot of things we say, and probably disagree with a lot of things we say too, and challenge us.
That's okay.
And I don't want to just be a someone who's preaching but not actually doing it.
No,
That's disingenuous to me.
And-
And I have been doing it quietly, but I want to make sure I'm doing even more than I have.
and yeah, I've been doing it quietly as well, but I want to do more. It's, you know, but we talked about it early on. A lot of these great organizations, you can't join them all, but we were joining ones that meant something to us.
Oh yeah, that was,
and I want to do more of that.
We
as
had
well.
National Wild Turkey Federation on, and I was like, I turkey hunt. I love what they do. I follow all their social media, but I'm not a member. Why am I not a member? It's $35 for the year. Why wouldn't I do it? Same thing happened with privately with backcountry hunters and anglers with when we had Ducks Unlimited. I'm like, I follow all their stuff. I go to the dinners when they used to have them, but I'm not. Why am I not a member of this? And so I joined, and it's there's a lot of organizations that we have on. I'm like, why am I not affiliated with this?
And I did the same thing with New Jersey Audubon Act that actually just did it with WWF. You know, and I didn't even know she did it. You know, that was just something that meant something to her that she did it. So it's, you know, and share those experiences with everyone as well. You know, a lot of it, I understand we do a lot of it behind the scenes. I know we're doing it for the right reasons. You're not tooting your own horn. You know, we're not asking you to do that, but share your experiences in your yard in your.
And that's, so you said tooting your own horn. I'm just not that kind of person to go and say, oh, look at all the great things I'm doing.
Yeah.
But to really, in my mind, to really make a difference and appeal to people who aren't already in the circle, that's what I'm going to have to do. And that's what I think a lot of us have to do is, and I've met a bunch of our listeners now too. So I know you're also not those kind of people who want to go online and say all this stuff. And I'm almost like repulsed by that kind of behavior sometimes. But if we want more people to plant native plants that are not already doing it, that's what's going to have to be done.
Yeah. And it's making a shift. Like, I'm a pretty private person. It's okay to be a private person. My Facebook page, like, I'm probably not going to accept your friend request if you send a friend request, because it's a lot of family stuff. It's a lot of things like that. But I really contemplate it. Like, my Twitter's open and unlocked. And I thought about unlocking my Instagram and trying to play more of an active role in ecology and native plants using my Instagram if people would follow. And it's kind of under a name where you're not going to find it anyway. But I'm thinking about doing that.
Yeah. Me too. I'm off to a great start. I went to Mount Cuba, the whole thing. I'm going to take so many videos of me here and talk about the really cool things they're doing. And I got so caught up.
I was waiting for you to do it. You know what? I was waiting for the Mount Cuba post. And when you were going to go, I was going to say, hey, we need to make all these videos down there and even like
videos
pictures with former guests and things like that.
Didn't even have time to do it. Just catching up.
It will happen one of these days. I'm going to start doing selfies with former guests and doing that. And it's important, not just on the Native Plants Healthy Planet social media, but on our own social media. And you can make a difference too. If you're posting a picture of your property on Facebook and you have people that are asking what you're doing, that's just another way to spread the message.
Exactly.
So don't be afraid, but only do what you feel comfortable with. You know, there's a lot of things that we don't do. Just do what you feel comfortable with. If you bring one person to the circle, you made a huge difference.
I would say break out of your comfort zone a little bit. Just take that first step.
All right.
Like don't go crazy.
All right. I'm gonna unlock my Instagram. How's that?
Yeah.
So if
I
you
will too.
And all right. I'm gonna unlock my Instagram. If you want to follow, you want to throw out your Instagram.
Oh, I don't even know it.
I'm going to say mine, and it almost makes me sad to say it because of the timing, but mine is Mr. Turd Ferguson, which is a reference to Norm Macdonald, who just passed away, and him playing Burt Reynolds on SNL's Jeopardy spoof. So I'll unlock that as soon as we're done this. And it's right now it's mostly family stuff, but I'm going to start doing more and more native posts to try to get people more involved.
Yeah. And mine is TKNEZ 1207.
All right.
And I'm gonna unlock it right now. And I haven't posted anything since Mother's Day, and before that it was probably like it was 2020.
All right, let me see.
I'm gonna have to get on it.
When was the last time I posted? Of course, and it's a pizza, by the way.
A lot of family stuff, a lot of food stuff on there.
September 7th was the last time. I don't even know how to unlock it. I guess you got to go into settings.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do right
Privacy.
now.
All right. It's no longer private. I have a public account.
Yep. Me too.
All right. There you go. You can now follow us. if you're interested. You may not be, but we're going to make a conscious effort to
Make sure we're posting more native plant stuff. We want more people to see this. We're preaching about it. We need to do it too. So,
yes.
And we hope you do as well.
Awesome. I think that's it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That wraps us up. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of The Buzz. And thank you everyone for listening to Native Plants, Healthy Planet, presented by Pinelands Nursery.
Thank you, RJ Comer, again for our Buzz theme music. Make sure you stream or buy RJ's music on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you consume your music. I think we're going to do a petition for new theme music for our 3 different segments. So if you have theme music that you want to submit to us, you can send it to info@nativeplantshealthyplanet.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Pineland Nursery, Facebook at Pinelands Nursery NJ, Instagram at Pinelands Nursery, and YouTube at Pinelands Nursery. Don't forget about the question and comment line. Call us at 215-346-6189. Again, 215-346-6189. Ask a question, leave a comment. We'll play it on a future episode of The Buzz and answer it to the best of our abilities. And keep it going over at the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group. We got a bunch of new members this week, and we really appreciate the conversation. A lot of new people chiming in and posting, and we're really happy about that.
Make sure you send us your most beautiful rendition of what Saul looks like through your artistic means of choice. We're really excited to see him, and we're hoping that Saul's excited to see him as well. I know he is. So we also have t-shirts. So, and I should mention, you send that to the same email, the info@nativeplantshealthyplanet.com. Send it there, and that's where we're going to compile everything and then eventually tabulate who's going to move on. We now have t-shirts. We are so happy that we were finally able to donate some money to some great causes. And I don't want to insult anyone if they didn't get chosen this time, because there's so many people who fit that description. People are just doing it. They're so passionate about it. It's their life. And so we're hoping that we can donate a lot more money to those kind of organizations in the future.
The more shirts, the more good we can do.
Exactly. So you can visit that store at www.nativeplantshealthyplanet.com. There's just a banner right at the top that says t-shirts. Click on that. It'll take you to our Teespring store. And all the profits from those shirts we are going to support. We're using to support these organizations. So you can listen to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast directly at www.nativeplantshealthyplanet.com. You can also check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, really wherever you consume your podcasts. When you're there, make sure you subscribe. And if you leave a 5-star review with a little write-up, I'm going to use you as my listener shout out. I'm going to keep doing that until it gets overwhelming. So, and if you can share this with a friend, it really, really helps.
You want to do a secret?
It's your secret.
It's my secret. So I can't remember if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I'm actually, and you're going to chuckle because behind the scenes, I'm allergic to poison ivy. Now I have many, many allergies, but I'm allergic to poison ivy. And the reason why
Fran is allergic to poison ivy, and he is excited to let everyone know.
Twice in my lifetime, I've been hospitalized for poison ivy on my face. And I guess it was probably like 5 years ago, I got it on my face, and it just wouldn't go away. It seemed like I had it for like 6 months, and everyone heard about it every day for 6 months. So when I get poison,
moved a quarter inch over to the right.
everyone is allergic to me complaining about my allergies to poison ivy. But I have so many allergies. What I find interesting is Agatha and I have many of the very same allergies. So it's really interesting. So but yeah, it's one of those things where I really can't get near it. Like if there's poison ivy where I'm working, I can't even look at it, or I get it bad. So
I'm fortunate enough that I'm not really allergic to poison ivy. I get like little bumps. If it'll be wherever my sleeves meet my wrists. There's like wrists. If I'm wearing long sleeves or short sleeves, it'll be maybe in my elbows, but I don't really get it. And so I'm fortunate in that way. My wife gets it bad though.
Really?
Like I was working, cutting down some branches one time, and there was some poison ivy mixed in, and I had it on my shirt, and I gave her a hug, and she got it all over her face, and she was covered. It was really bad.
I did learn from someone I know that turned out to be allergic to poison ivy too. Like when they give you the steroid treatment, one knocks it down, but you need a second to knock it out. And what's the difference maker. But by the time I get it, like I did learn that it's like you can't give it to someone else. Wherever the oil touches, that's where you get it. So it doesn't spread. But I get it all over, and like my arms, I get like Popeye looking arms because they'll just swell up really bad. So I know that's not a very sexy secret, but that's my that's that's
and
my
now
secret.
everyone's privileged of the same joy that we have of
Yes.
hearing about your poison
the next,
ivy.
the
Shay.
next time I get it, that will definitely be my complaint.
Yeah.
So
So with that, thank you everyone. I'm Tom.
and I am Fran. Thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next week. We're not sure if it's a rooted discussion or a meet the guest yet. We'll finalize that up, but you will know as soon as we know, obviously. And until then, keep it native.
Thank you for listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Remember to like, share, follow, and comment.